Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Very happy to be here at Nordic Game Talents. I'm here to give you a short overview of the Danish games industry. My name is Jesper Krogh-Kristiansen, which sounds incredibly Nordic. I'm so sorry. And I'm from a business cluster, as it's called. It's called Vision Denmark, which means that it's basically a partly state-funded organization that's working to strengthen the Danish games industry. So we do a lot of events and we also collect a lot of data. So well, we thought that it would be quite fitting for me to give you kind of a very quick tour of the Danish games industry. So let's get started. I thought that it would be interesting to start with probably the most recognizable side of the Danish games industry, which is the games they make. So I picked out probably some of the most well-known examples, or like most representative examples of games that are from Denmark. So as you can see, the field is fairly wide. There are mobile free-to-play titles like Subway Surfers and Lily's Garden from Tactile. We have like indie stuff like What the Golf from Triband, or super artsy indie stuff like Inside from Playdead. There's AAA stuff from IO Interactive, who are making Hitman and now working on a James Bond game. And there's also like what you would call probably AA stuff, which would be Deep Rock Galactic, which is slightly smaller, but also, I mean, what they're doing is like a games as a service thing. So it's a fairly broad field, and well, maybe you know some of these titles. If you don't, well, I think they're fairly representative of the breadth of the Danish games industry. So if we dive into some numbers, I picked up some numbers. I'm going to apologize because these are fairly old numbers. They're from 2019. We should actually have new numbers on the way, but it's because the payout of Corona support packages are handled by the same state organization that also collates, statistics on businesses. So everything's delayed because they've been spending all their time paying out, Corona support packages. So we'll only get the data from 2020 in a month or so. But in any case, here are some numbers from 2019. 142 registered game companies. There's turnover of about 180 million euros. The majority of that's exports. There are around 1,000 FTE, full-time employees in the industry. That probably translates to a bit more people because some of them are part-time, and so they're probably a bigger number. But if you count it up, it becomes 1,000 full-time positions. It's fairly geographically centered. You have 70% of the companies registered in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, and 85% of the workforce is employed here. And as I said, these are 2019 figures. I have made like a nice graph for you. Oh, nice! So this is the revenue of the industry. And as you can see, there's a fair growth, but we have some preliminary numbers from 2020, and we actually expect a really big jump for 2020. This is actually a very conservative estimate from our side. We expect it to probably almost double in revenue from 2019 to 2020, but until we have the final numbers, we can't say for sure. But I thought that, since we're pretty sure it's going to turn out fairly well, it would be a shame not to include it in this presentation. Okay. If we take, from that data and then try and say, can we say something general about, what are the characteristics of the Danish games industry? Well, we can actually say a few things. There are many smaller companies in Denmark, actually also a fair amount of one-person companies. The majority of the revenue is made by a few major players. As you could see from the previous slides, it's geographically concentrated around Copenhagen, and you may or may not know, but Copenhagen is located only like half an hour train ride from Malmö in Sweden, and together Copenhagen and Malmö is kind of a hub in that a lot of people in Denmark is employed at Swedish game developers in Malmö and vice versa. So there's like this very powerful hub around Copenhagen and Malmö, and then there's a little bit in some of the other cities in Denmark. Aarhus, which is the second largest city of Denmark, is probably also the second largest city games-wise. And I actually think that there are that Kilo is participating, and they're actually located in Aarhus, and that's like the second largest hub. As you could see, a large part of the revenue is generated from income from a large amount of export, and that translates into that the home market in Denmark is fairly insignificant unless you're targeting children. So in general, Danish game developers, they are aiming at a global market from the get-go. Then I also picked out some current trends. What's happening right now in the industry, giving you an idea of where we're going to be 1, 2, maybe 3 years from now. In that we're seeing an increasing maturity in the sector. In that companies are becoming more professional. They're becoming more professional earlier in their life cycle, being more serious about running a company. We're also seeing like reinvestments accelerating, which means that some of the money that are generated just by revenue or from exits when they are taking investments or selling their companies, some of that money is now being reinvested into the industry, which we see as a super healthy trend, because that means that it's actually people who know games who are investing in game companies, and that's, you don't only get money, you also get connections and network and knowledge. So it's kind of like the best investment money you can get. So we're fairly excited about that. There's an increasing number of mid-sized developers, which we're also pretty happy about, because as I said, earlier there was more of a gap between a lot of very small developers and then a few major ones, and now we are beginning to see the space between these being filled out by some mid-sized developers. That was actually on the slide with the game examples. There are a couple of them. There would be like Triband and GoShip Games, who are 2 of these new mid-sized developers, which who have between maybe, I don't know, between 20 and 60 people, something like that, which we count as mid-size. And then also there's a heavy recruitment right now by the major players. I guess that's why we're all here. And that's because the major players, people like Kilo, Tactile, Cybo, IO Interactive, they want to grow, and they need the people for that to happen. So they're out right now looking for talented people. Then I thought that another interesting thing to touch upon is that there's actually a lot of tools and support companies in Denmark as well. So they are also part of the ecosystem. You may or may not know this, but Unity was actually started in a basement in a working class neighborhood of Copenhagen. And they still have a very significant presence here, even if they are like officially registered in the US. They have a very large office here. There's Rokoku, who do like motion capture. They have motion capture hardware. Model AI, who do like automated QA and game testing. Game Analytics, who do mobile game metrics. And Mood, who do like concept art and stuff for AAA game developers. So there's also that side of it. So that's also part of the Danish ecosystem. Then I wanted to say something about, what do I believe are the characteristics of working in the Danish games industry? Because I thought that, if you're considering getting hired by a Danish developer, maybe relocating to Denmark, what would be relevant to know about, how does work happen in a Danish game studio? So I would say that in general, and this of course is very general, there will be outliers and differences, but in general, there's a very flat organizational structure, which means that if you have something to say, you can probably go straight to the boss without going through a lot of middle layers. There's generally a good work-life balance, which means that of course, overtime does happen, but it's not. There's not like a perpetual crunch culture. So people are actually usually able to go home when they're supposed to. There's usually a pretty relaxed environment, which means that you can dress casually, put stuff on your desk, be relaxed around your workplace. There's strong welfare options, which means that there's you don't have to worry about getting sick. There's good healthcare. If you have kids, there's kindergartens and stuff like that where you can take care of your kids while you work. And probably also very relevant is that generally, once you reach a certain size, English will become the workplace language, because there's a lot of internationals employed in the Danish games industry. So naturally, English becomes the workplace language. And then just a few pointers about living in Denmark, I thought would be relevant to include just here at the very end. That generally, at least if you ask people around the world, Copenhagen is and Denmark's a nice place to be. Copenhagen, safest city in the world, second happiest country in the world. Yay! High English literacy. If you can, most people can speak some form of English. You'll be able to get by. You don't have to learn Danish if you don't want to. Generally, an easygoing atmosphere, and I should say that it can also be somewhat expensive. Of course, salaries reflect that. You will get a relatively higher salary in Copenhagen, but it can be. It can be expensive, and maybe you'll have to live a little bit outside of the city center if you want to spend your money on something else than a place to live. So that was actually it. Thank you, and hope to see you in Denmark soon. Of course, in the meantime, don't be afraid to reach out if you have any questions. Here's my mail, and here's the official Twitter handle of Vision Denmark, which was formerly called Interactive Denmark. That's why the handle is named something different than Vision Denmark. And I think, do we have 2 minutes for questions or something like that?
Yes, but I ask this for everyone. How do you see the future of the Danish games industry?
I see, well, as I said, we expect like a huge growth in 2020. So what I'll see in the future is probably a larger ecosystem and a more evenly distributed. Because what we're seeing now is the coming of all these mid-sized studios. So I would expect that more of these will come. So we'll have like a more even distribution where you have like big AAA studios like IO Interactive, and then you have middle size and small and one person. So that's probably what I expect. And then it seems that some companies are also moving more towards doing premium PC titles. I know of a couple of old mobile developers who are doing well, who are also like dipping their toe into the PC game pond, or what you want to call it, because they see that mobile is often a question of if you're doing good, you spend $100 and get $105 back. Whereas if you do like, for example, like PC games as a service, there's a chance of a larger payout if you hit it big.